Hi, welcome to this week's episode of Rumour Has It, the truth behind the rumors. My name is Leslie Donaldson, and this is my personal video blog. This is instead of writing a book. However, I really have written a book, and I did write a lot for many, many, many years. And I have put things together, and maybe that's something that we're going to talk about later, and I do have that here, and we will be going through that. So that is one of the reasons why I chose to do a video blog. And if you are only just tuning in today and really don't know what we're talking about, you can go back. The beginning of this series is called How I Choose to Live My Life, and that is all on our YouTube channel at ITR Polygraph. So if you go to YouTube, hit ITR Polygraph and hit videos, and you'll see them all come up. And this is the continuation, part 2 if you would, of How I Choose to Live My Life. However, as I explained last week, up till then it was how I chose to live my life. But now we have turned into a different phase of this type of video blog, and it is not about how I chose to live my life. It was nothing that I would have wished upon myself and our children and things like that. And so if you'd like to know what we're talking about so that you can follow along and catch up, please do go to that series. Because today we're just going to pick up where we left off. And so where we left off last week was my dad's new girlfriend has come for her very first visit, to visit the family. And who was she, and get to meet her and have her meet us and our new and our family, my dad's family. Who are we? And I didn't know much about her, and she didn't know much about us. And so we had a good visit. But like I said, there was something that didn't seem quite right to me or to Ken, and quite frankly to many of my family and friends that did meet her. And so what happened from there was very quick. From that very first meeting, within a couple weeks, my dad flew to Waterloo, Ontario, and Irene, very sadly, chose to leave her husband of 40 years, pack up her little red car of whatever she has, little belongings, and her and my father drove across Canada back to Alberta with Irene and her little car. She was a yoga instructor, and so she had her yoga things and a few little items of hers, but really didn't come with much at all. She had said that she just wanted to leave her husband and start fresh with my father. And my dad had, I guess, what she needed. So she moved right away into the house that my dad and I had helped to prepare for her as a very nice gesture. Something that I wanted to help support for my father. Because if this was going to be his partner, I wanted to support that. I wanted to be a family. It was a huge hole. We were all missing my mom. And so she moved in. And in preparing for today and how I would talk about this and speaking about it with my husband and the children, and what was it like after we met her the first time till she moved in, and then after, was she the same? The phrase and the name of this episode is Jekyll and Hyde. There was nothing the same about her. In fact, it was very strange. The following weekend when she was there, and we were all there to welcome her and everything, and we were having coffee and some tea and so forth, and everybody was talking nicely and everything, and then my father left the room and people left the room. And she just looked at me straight in and said, I'm here now. You don't need to be. And you've got your own family. And I'm here now. And I think that, you don't need to be here as much. I really didn't understand. I'm thinking, well, what are you talking about? And then when my father would enter the room back again, she'd act as if she'd never said anything, that we were just having a very nice conversation. And then there was also some times too, and some people may recall this, because she was very public with how she was. Unfortunately, and I spoke about this before, sadly, alcohol played a huge role. My dad always liked to socialize and have friends, and he would go down to the rugby club and so forth here in St. Albert. But it also came hand in hand with drinking. And so, unfortunately, there were a few times that in public, and this had never happened before, one particular time, that Irene wanted to argue with me. And it's as if she were jealous. And she said straight out to my father one time, choose her or me. I couldn't believe it. Are you serious? Why would you ask my dad to choose her, choose the girlfriend or his daughter? This was all starting to snowball, sadly, into the concerns that we had in the beginning prior to her moving here. That what was her agenda? What truly was going on? Because she seemed nice and then she didn't seem nice. And then my dad said, just a minute, I'll talk to her. She doesn't really know what's going on or how to be in a family relationship. Well, what are you talking about? She's a mother with 2 grown sons. She's come here with you and your daughters and your 6 grandchildren. You told me that she was a person who loved family, but at the same time is doing nothing but trying to cause strife between my dad and me and my family. And kind of talking poorly about his grandchildren, or maybe about my parenting skills or things like that. And that's really hard. And it was very hard. And so there came many times when my father said, Leslie, give her another chance. She doesn't mean to be that way. It's hard for her. She's left her husband. She's come to somewhere new. Give her a chance. And so there also came a time when there was a women's trip planned for Jasper, to go to Jasper Park Lodge. Only it was very bittersweet because the last year that my mom was alive, her and I went to Jasper Park Lodge, to have our own time together. Now you have to please remember that this blog, I have absolutely declared that I am, number one, a woman of faith. And there's never a time that I have tried to hide my faith. And so, as a side note in here, Irene and everybody around me knew that my faith was Christian based, that I believe in the Lord Jesus Christ. And there came a time when some of that was used against me. And you have to understand too that at the same time, I'm struggling with losing my mom. I'm struggling with helping my dad, but kind of pull back now. His girlfriend's here, help at home, be with the children, do what I need to do, and really focus on healing from grief. And I prayed a lot. I was at church a lot. Many Bible studies, women's Bible studies. St. Albert Alliance Church, I give it a huge shout out here in St. Albert. It was incredibly helpful for me during that time. So at times, I'm not sure if I think that maybe Irene is an answer to our prayers. We wanted somebody for my dad. We wanted somebody to fill that void. We wanted somebody for the children. And so there was a huge part of me that truly believed and hoped for that she was a gift, that she was real, she was who she says she was. And so I went with her, and all these, like I said, so-called friends of my mom's. I'm not sure if I'm thinking about exactly all the women who went to Jasper Park Lodge. I'm not sure if there's not one that I would speak to today. And I'll say that straight up. Because when we were there, I thought we were there all as friends. But it wasn't actually. Irene used that time to gain my confidence, to use my faith against me, so that I would maybe confide in her with some things about myself or my family. How she used that and how she repeated that to those ladies who also went to the women's weekend was unkind, unfair, untrue, and completely exaggerated. It was not at all how I said things or how I meant anything. And then it was not only repeated to those ladies, but it was repeated to my father. In a way, and only one way, was to try and ruin and discredit my relationship with my father. It was actually during a Mother's Day. And after going to the Jasper Park Lodge and coming back, we had met at my mom's special place where Irene met me with my father. And I think I'm there to celebrate and honor my mom, when actually my father was very upset by how Irene had relayed what we had talked about back to him in a very negative manner about me and my mom. And it was incredibly hurtful. And then my father understood in a couple weeks' time, but it took a couple weeks for us to be able to talk. And he said, Leslie, I've thought a lot about what she said. I know that is not you and that is not your character. And I'm sorry that we even talked about it in that way. But that changed everything from here on out. There was many times when Irene's behavior to me was mean and cruel and rude, painful for our children, and something that was, I wish that I had said to my dad, and it's something that Ken, my husband, wishes that he had said and confided and told the truth, pardon me, to his beloved father-in-law, who he loved so much. But because she had already taken what we had said and twisted it around and was always already whispering lies in his ears that we will never accept anybody. So anything that they say about her is untrue. Don't listen to it, Sandy. But what actually was going on behind closed doors was she was calling my husband and asking my husband to go over to my father's house. And she'd say to Ken, well, I just have moved here. I don't know how to turn on the TV. Can you please help me turn on the TV? Can you help me to turn on the VCR? Well, after calling him and asking him that about 5 times and taking no notes, and every time sitting a bit closer and closer, just literally looking at my husband, rather than actually being able to turn on the TV, my husband felt incredibly uncomfortable and questioned her motives. And at that time, we all questioned her motives. So here's something, and I'm going to be getting to this binder because that is the book that I have already written. And it is a book of truth. And it is a book of documents. So it is not just to please take my word for it, of anything that I say in this video blog. But this is my life and my story. And this is the truth behind the rumors. Sadly, this prayer, it's given out to many, many people. Many people in many associations, they use this prayer. And it is, I hope, familiar to you, and it's called the Serenity Prayer. And I love it, and I kept it with me all the time. The Serenity Prayer: God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. Living one day at a time, enjoying one moment at a time, accepting hardships as the pathway to peace, taking as he did this sinful world as it is, not as I would have it. Trusting that he will make all things right. If I surrender to his will, that I may be reasonably happy in this life, and supremely happy with him forever in the next. This was something I lived by, and this was something I believed in, and this was something I shared all the time. But sometimes when people know what your faith is, they want to use it as a weakness. So I want to leave you with that unfortunately I'd met Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. But one thing here I mentioned last week, and so that everybody understands, is that my dad did make a new living will, and it appointed Brian Farrell as the executor, and it gave everything equal parts to Laura and I. This is something that is properly signed, executed, and so forth. So, because there was one comment that was made last week, and this is all here. So, it was a comment that I received in the direct message that somebody didn't believe that there was a will that was actually executed that said Laura and I 50-50. They questioned it. Please don't ever question whether I'm telling the truth or not. This book here is a book of truth. Thank you very much for listening today. Next week we're going to discover more of the truth behind the rumors. Thank you for tuning in today. Bye for now.